The loan officer slid the pen across the polished mahogany desk toward me. "Just sign here, Iris. Congratulations on your new apartment." The relief and joy I felt were immense. This was the culmination of 10 years of disciplined savings. I reached for the pen just as my phone buzzed with 2 rapid-fire notifications. The first was a text message from my mother, Carol. It simply read, "Haha. Guess we needed it more than you did." The second notification, from my bank, flashed on the screen. Account balance, $0. Total withdrawal. All of it. My parents texted me, "Haha. And emptied our joint account." The pen dropped from my numb fingers, skittering across the smooth wood. The world tilted violently. What the hell just happened to her? The immediate, financial betrayal was absolute, burning away every ounce of trust one had left. I am Iris, 30 years old, and in that single moment, I realized my entire future had been stolen by the very people who promised to protect it. My parents texted me, "Haha," and emptied our joint account, but they had no idea what was coming. For years, my parents, Carol and Arthur, had encouraged me to put nearly every spare penny into that family joint account, swearing it was solely for my first house down payment. It was their way of controlling me, making me the dependable family ATM while they heaped praise and favors upon my younger sister, Vivian, the golden child. Now, just as I reached my goal, they had executed the cruelest, most public theft imaginable. My immediate emotional reaction was a cold, pure anger that displaced the panic. I excused myself from the stunned loan officer and texted my father, Arthur. "Did you seriously just steal all my money?" His response was immediate, terse, and laced with gaslighting. "It was our money too, Iris. We are using it for a family emergency. You'll be fine. Stop being dramatic." The phrasing, "it was our money too," solidified the painful truth. This wasn't an accident or a moment of weakness. It was a calculated, malicious act, executed with smug cruelty. They had deliberately ruined my life and laughed while doing it. I drove home, not to my tiny rented room, but to the memory that held the key to my revenge, the lakeside house. This beautiful property had been left to my mother by my grandmother Eleanor. Eleanor had always loved me best, sensing the underlying imbalance in the family. I suddenly remembered Eleanor insisting on a complex, restrictive deed of gift when she handed the house over to Carol years ago. Eleanor wanted to protect the house's legacy from my father's failed business ventures. I stopped at the old family home where I still kept some boxes. Using a spare key hidden under a rock, I crept into the dusty attic. After hours of searching through old tax documents and forgotten files, I found it, the original deed of gift paperwork from Eleanor. More importantly, I found the documentation from a decade ago, showing that when Carol and Arthur faced bankruptcy due to Arthur's failed business, they had temporarily transferred the property deed of the lakeside house into my name for tax protection, swearing they would reverse it later. They never did. My heart hammered as I read the small print of the original deed of gift. Eleanor, with her protective wisdom, had insisted on a crucial clause. The property could not be sold or mortgaged unless the named holder, which was legally me, Iris, could demonstrate full financial stability and independence, thus preventing the parents from liquidating the asset for quick cash. My father, in his rush to save his business, had completely forgotten to reverse the temporary deed transfer, leaving me the sole legal owner of the lake house under a restrictive, unbreakable clause. The parents believed they had bankrupted me, but they were wrong. I revealed my second secret fund, a small, separate account at a different bank, one I'd established specifically to hide emergency money for my parents' probing questions. I used this money, just enough to hire a specialist property lawyer. The lawyer, Mr. Harrison, listened to my story and immediately saw the massive legal loophole my parents' greed had created. Mr. Harrison's initial research revealed a shocking oversight. When Carol and Arthur paid off their primary residence mortgage using my stolen savings, they unintentionally executed a financial maneuver that violated a separate, older joint loan agreement I wasn't even aware of, one that Arthur had secured years ago. Their desperate act of greed to gain clear ownership of their house actually put it in legal jeopardy, thanks to a forgotten technicality tied to Arthur's business. The final confirmation of their malice came from the bank records the lawyer accessed. Carol and Arthur had emptied the joint account, not just to pay their mortgage, but to buy new luxury items for Vivian, including a ridiculously expensive designer bag, and fund Arthur's latest, doomed second business attempt. The money was spent purely on blatant favoritism and their own reckless ambition, destroying my life savings without a moment of remorse. The pain of the financial loss was nothing compared to the clarity of their calculated cruelty. I spent days reviewing the family calendar. I learned Carol and Arthur were planning a huge public housewarming party at the lake house to celebrate their supposed financial security and Vivian's new venture. The party was meant to showcase their wealth and success to all their friends. I set the revenge for the day before the party, the absolute peak of their arrogant anticipation, to ensure maximum impact. I authorized Mr. Harrison to execute the final, strategic legal strike. He filed the paperwork asserting my full and legal ownership of the lakeside property, leveraging the irrefutable evidence of the deed of gift and the original deed transfer from years ago. The documents were official, non-negotiable, and filed with the county recorder's office. The house they were renovating and celebrating was legally mine, and they were technically trespassers. That evening, Carol called, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Iris, dear, I know you're upset about the money," she cooed. "It's just for the family business. You need to be less selfish and more mature, like Vivian. We need you to come to the lake house this weekend and help us set up for the party." Her gaslighting was brazen. "I'm sorry, Carol," I replied, my voice calm. "I have something important to handle this weekend." The next morning, Mr. Harrison had the final papers served. A professional courier delivered a formal, legal eviction notice to Carol and Arthur at the lake house. The notice was stark, legal, and signed by the property owner, Iris, last name. It gave them 48 hours to vacate the premises before the locks would be changed. Arthur called me, not with panic, but with rage and scorn. "This is childish, Iris. I'll see you in court. That house is mine by inheritance. You can't threaten us with a piece of paper." He completely dismissed the notice, believing it was a simple, petty tantrum. He remained blissfully unaware of the restrictive deed of gift clause that legally cemented my ownership and invalidated his claim. His arrogance was their undoing. My lawyer confirmed the legal mechanism was firing perfectly. Carol and Arthur's move to clear their primary residence mortgage using my stolen savings had inadvertently activated a clause related to the old joint loan secured by Arthur's failing business. That primary house, the house they thought they had just secured, was now also in imminent legal jeopardy. They were completely exposed on two fronts. I drove to the lake house myself. Carol and Arthur met me on the porch, screaming about my cruelty and how I was destroying the family. I stood still, my expression calm. I held up the original deed of gift. "Grandmother Eleanor put a clause in this deed, Arthur," I said quietly. "The property cannot be sold or mortgaged by anyone lacking financial stability. When you emptied my bank account, you violated the terms of the deed, and my ownership became absolute." I then handed Arthur a second, heavy legal document. This one was addressed to him and Carol regarding the impending foreclosure on their primary residence. The shock wiped the anger from their faces, leaving only vacant terror. I had not only taken the lake house but had stripped them of the only house they had left. Arthur, the man who prided himself on his business smarts, finally realized the depth of his financial ruin. He exploded in a rage and denial, his face purple. He had sacrificed his primary asset and his retirement for frivolous spending on Vivian and his doomed ventures. He staggered back, screaming about how I was going to jail, but his protests were hollow. The noise drew Vivian, who pulled up in her new luxury car, demanding to know what the shouting was about. Upon learning the party was cancelled and the lake house was lost, she didn't defend her parents. She screamed at me, "You ruined my party. I need this house for my career. You're so selfish." Her reaction confirmed the true, superficial nature of the golden child and the depth of the family's entitlement. I didn't stay to argue. I calmly called the local sheriff's department on my phone, reporting trespassing on my legally owned property, the lake house, and providing the legal documentation. I turned and walked away as the police lights began to flash in the distance, leaving my parents and Vivian standing exposed and ruined on the porch of the house that wasn't theirs. With my original emergency savings and a modest bridge loan, I put a down payment on a small, quiet apartment in the city. I was finally free, financially independent, and building a life of integrity, far away from their toxic control. I was home. A few weeks later, I received a thick, desperate letter from Arthur. It wasn't an apology, but a desperate plea for a family loan to rent a small apartment, confirming their total dependency on the one person they had financially destroyed. I held the letter, feeling the weight of their total, self-inflicted powerlessness. I made a final, powerful decision regarding the lake house. I legally transferred the property into a non-profit trust in grandmother Eleanor's name, ensuring the property would be used for community and conservation purposes. I fulfilled the true, loving spirit of Eleanor's original deed of gift. I finalized the sale of their primary residence, using the proceeds to cover my legal fees and the outstanding loan they had accrued, effectively closing the door entirely on their financial past and removing all shared financial connections. I enjoyed my new, quiet apartment, finally experiencing peace. Months later, I received one last bitter text message from Carol, calling me cruel and unfeeling. I looked at the message, then deleted it without replying, realizing my worth was never defined by their approval, their money, or their spite. I was finally secure, truly independent, and truly free. If you've made it this far, you understand, respect is non-negotiable. My worth wasn't defined by a haha text or a zero balance. My story proves that silence can be a weapon, and strategic patience is power against those who think family titles give them the right to steal your future. If this resonated with you, if you've been gaslit into invisibility or financially betrayed, share it. Tell them, your silence doesn't make you weak, it means you are filing the deed of gift. Your boundaries don't make you difficult. Your survival makes you extraordinary. Because the revolution happens when you decide to write your own ending. Your financial security was never in question. It was only ever waiting for the eviction notice. Have you ever had to reclaim your dignity from a family that stole from you? Share your story in the comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe.